The classroom was filled with nervous energy. Students from 12 different species sat in their assigned seats, waiting for something they had never seen before. The advanced xenobiology class at the Galactic Academy was known for unusual lessons, but today's announcement had everyone talking. Instructor Velthar stood at the front of the room. He was a Quilvan, tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the artificial lights. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he prepared the equipment for the day's demonstration. The students watched him with wide eyes, some excited and others clearly afraid. Hyunwoo sat in the 3rd row, his dark eyes focused on the instructor. He was human, one of only 15 humans currently studying at the academy. His black hair was neat, and he wore the standard academy uniform like everyone else, but he stood out anyway. Humans always did. They were newcomers to the galactic community, and many species still did not trust them. Next to Hyunwoo sat Jiwon, a female Quilvan with pale blue skin. She was tapping her fingers nervously on her desk. Her breathing was quick and shallow. Jiwon was smart and careful, always thinking about safety and proper procedures. Right now she looked worried. "Are you scared?" Hyunwoo asked her quietly. Jiwon turned to look at him. "Of course I am scared. They are bringing predators into our classroom, real predators from a death world." Hyunwoo nodded. He understood her fear. Most species in the galaxy came from what humans would call peaceful worlds, places where evolution had been gentle, where predators were rare or small. Earth was different. Earth was classified as a death world, a place where everything seemed designed to kill you. Across the aisle, Doyen made a loud snorting sound. He was Threxian, with dark red scales covering his body and small horns on his head. Doyen was rich, arrogant, and he loved making others feel small. He especially enjoyed picking on Hyunwoo. "Look at the human," Doyen said loudly enough for others to hear. "He is not even scared. Maybe he is too stupid to understand the danger." Several students laughed. Hyunwoo felt his jaw tighten, but he said nothing. He had learned that responding to Doyen only made things worse. Better to stay quiet and let the bully get bored. Instructor Velthar raised one of his hands, and the room fell silent. "Students, please pay attention. Today we will observe live specimens from Carvax Prime. This planet is classified as a Class 9 death world. The creatures we will study are called Ravix. They are apex predators, meaning they are at the top of their food chain." A wave of whispers spread through the classroom. Mina, a Velcorian girl with purple fur and large ears, raised her hand. "Instructor, is this safe? I thought Academy rules said we could not have dangerous animals in teaching areas." Velthar nodded. "An excellent question. Yes, normally this would not be allowed. However, these are cubs, very young Ravix. They are only 6 weeks old. Additionally, we will have multiple force barriers between you and the specimens. You will be completely safe, I promise." Taeyang, who sat on the other side of Hyunwoo, leaned over. Taeyang was half Quilvan, half Verdani, with green-tinged skin and kind eyes. He was one of the few students who treated Hyunwoo like a friend. "Have you ever seen a Ravix before?" he whispered. Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, but I read about them last night when I saw today's lesson plan. They sound dangerous." "Dangerous?" Taeyang's eyes widened. "They are called living nightmares in some texts. Even the adults are afraid of them." The instructor continued his explanation. "The purpose of today's lesson is to observe predator behavior in a controlled environment. You will see how these creatures react to different species. We will measure their responses to various pheromones and body language signals. This data is valuable for understanding how apex predators think and act." He pressed a button on his control pad. The wall behind him became transparent, revealing a secure preparation room. Inside, 3 large containers sat on a metal table. The containers were made of some kind of dark material, and Hyunwoo could see movement inside them. Jiwon grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. Her grip was tight. "I do not like this. I do not like this at all." The door to the preparation room opened, and two research assistants entered the classroom. They wore heavy protective suits that covered their entire bodies. Between them, they pushed a hovering platform that carried the three containers. As they got closer, Hyunwoo could hear sounds coming from inside the containers. Scratching, low growling, something that might have been purring, but darker and more threatening. The assistants positioned the platform at the front of the room, behind the first force barrier. Instructor Velthar activated several more barriers, creating layers of protection between the students and the containers. Blue energy fields hummed to life, casting strange shadows across the classroom. "Now," Velthar said, his voice calm and professional, "I will open the containers. Please remain in your seats. Do not make sudden movements. Do not scream or shout. Predators often respond to signs of fear or panic." Doyeon laughed again, but this time his laugh sounded forced. Even he seemed nervous now. The instructor pressed another button. The containers began to open, their lids sliding back with a soft hiss. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, three shapes emerged. The Ravix cubs were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They were about the size of large dogs, but their bodies were covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Their eyes glowed golden in the dim classroom. They had 4 legs with paws that ended in retractable claws. Their tails were long and flexible, constantly moving. Their heads were shaped like Earth's big cats, but with small horns and a more reptilian snout. The classroom was completely silent. Even Doyeon had stopped talking. The 3 cubs looked around the room, their golden eyes taking in everything. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for creatures so young. One of them opened its mouth, showing rows of sharp teeth. It made a sound that was somewhere between a hiss and a chirp. Hyunwoo watched them carefully. There was something familiar about the way they moved, something that reminded him of animals he had seen on Earth. He felt no fear, only curiosity. These were babies, after all. Dangerous babies, yes, but still young and probably confused. Instructor Velthar began explaining the cubs' biology. He talked about their muscle structure, their sensory abilities, their hunting instincts. But Hyunwoo was not really listening. He was watching the cubs. And he was starting to notice something strange. The cubs were not exploring their new environment like he expected. They were not interested in the equipment around them or the different scents in the room. Instead, all 3 of them were standing very still. Their heads were turned in the same direction. They were all looking at him. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. Not from fear, but from the intensity of their stare. The 3 Ravix cubs were completely focused on him, ignoring everything and everyone else in the classroom. Jiwon noticed too. "Why are they looking at you?" she whispered. Hyunwoo did not have an answer. He met the cubs' golden eyes and felt something he could not quite explain. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. It was as if the cubs saw something in him that others could not see. The demonstration had only just begun, but already something was going wrong. The instructor had stopped talking. Other students were starting to point and whisper. The Ravix cubs took a step forward, then another, moving closer to the barrier nearest to Hyunwoo's seat. And in that moment, everything changed. The 3 Ravix cubs moved in perfect coordination. Their golden eyes never left Hyunwoo as they crossed the observation area. Their claws clicked softly against the metal floor. The sound echoed in the silent classroom. Instructor Velthar looked confused. He checked his data pad, then looked at the cubs again. "This is unusual," he said slowly. "They should be investigating the scent markers we placed around the room. They should be curious about their new environment." But the cubs ignored everything except the human student in the 3rd row. They walked right past the carefully prepared stimulus stations. They showed no interest in the food samples or the pheromone dispensers. They had only one goal. When they reached the force barrier closest to Hyunwoo, they stopped. All three cubs pressed their bodies against the transparent energy field. The barrier hummed louder, responding to their presence. The cubs made sounds that no one in the room had ever heard before. It was not growling or hissing. It was something gentler, almost like purring, but mixed with small chirping noises. "What is that sound?" Mina asked from her seat. Her purple fur was standing up, a sign of fear in her species. "Are they angry? Are they trying to attack?" One of the research assistants checked his equipment. "The sound is not in our database," he reported to the instructor. "We have recordings of adult Ravix vocalizations, but nothing like this." Hyunwoo stared at the cubs. They were less than 3 meters away from him, separated only by the force barrier. Their behavior was strange. They were not showing aggression at all. Their tails were not lashing. Their claws were retracted. Their ears, small and flat against their heads, were pointed forward in what looked like attention, not anger. The cubs began moving along the barrier, trying to get closer to him. One of them stood on its back legs, pressing its front paws against the energy field. It made that strange, purring, chirping sound again. The other two cubs joined in, creating a chorus of unusual sounds. Taeyang slowly moved his seat away from Hyunwoo. "Sorry," he whispered, "but I do not want to be near whatever they are interested in." Doyun stood up from his seat. His red scales seemed darker, and his voice was loud. "This is a trick. The human must have done something to the creatures. Maybe he used some kind of scent or chemical. Humans are primitive. They use dirty tricks." "Sit down, Doyun," Instructor Velthar ordered. His voice was sharp. "Do not make accusations without evidence." But Doyun was not the only one thinking this. Hyunwoo could see other students looking at him with suspicion. Some were whispering to each other. He felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. "I did not do anything," Hyunwoo said clearly. "I do not know why they are acting like this." Jiwon had moved to a different seat, far from Hyunwoo. She looked scared but also curious. "Instructor, what should we do? This is not normal behavior, is it?" Velthar was studying his datapad intensely. His forearms moved quickly across the screen, pulling up information and charts. "No, this is not normal at all. Ravix cubs at this age should be cautious of unfamiliar species. They should maintain distance. They should certainly not show this level of focused interest in one individual." The instructor walked closer to the barriers, staying safe, but trying to observe better. "The cubs are displaying behavior we typically see only with their own pack members. See how they are pressing against the barrier? That is a contact-seeking behavior. And those sounds, those are comfort sounds, used to communicate with family." "But the human is not their family," another student said. "How is this possible?" One of the cubs turned its head to look at the instructor when he spoke. For a moment, it seemed interested in the Quilvan. But then it turned back to Hyunwoo and pressed harder against the barrier. The other two cubs did the same. They were completely focused on the human. Hyunwoo did not know what to do. Part of him wanted to leave, to get away from all the attention. But another part of him was fascinated. The cubs were beautiful, even if they were dangerous. And something about their behavior felt right to him, even though he could not explain why. Without thinking, Hyunwoo stood up slowly. The entire class gasped. Jiwon shouted, "No, stay in your seat!" But Hyunwoo was not trying to get closer to the cubs. He just wanted to see them better. The moment he stood, all three cubs became more excited. They made louder sounds, and their tails began wagging. Yes, wagging, just like Earth dogs did when they were happy. "Incredible," Velthar whispered. He was recording everything now. "They are showing excitement and joy. These are the same behaviors Ravix cubs show when their parents return to the den." Doyun's voice was angry. This proves humans are dangerous. They have some kind of control over predators. They should not be allowed in the academy. Several students nodded in agreement. But others looked thoughtful. Mina raised her hand. Instructor, I read something once about humans. They come from a Class 12 death world, correct? Not Class 9 like Carvax Prime. Their world is more dangerous. Velthar nodded slowly. That is correct. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. It is one of the most hostile planets known to support intelligent life. Then maybe, Mina continued, the cubs recognize something about humans, something about their death world nature. Taeyang spoke up too. I heard that humans lived with predators on their world. Not just avoided them, but actually lived together with them. Is that true, Hyunwoo? All eyes turned to the human student. Hyunwoo felt uncomfortable with so much attention, but he nodded. Yes, humans domesticated many animals, dogs, cats, horses, and others. We lived with them, worked with them. They became our friends and helpers. Domesticated? Velthar repeated the word slowly. You mean you changed wild predators into tame animals? Over many thousands of years, yes, Hyunwoo explained. Dogs were once wolves, wild predators, but humans and wolves began working together, hunting together. Over time, they became partners, then friends, then family. The classroom erupted in shocked whispers. Most species in the galaxy had never domesticated anything. The idea of taking a wild predator and making it family was beyond their understanding. It sounded impossible, even crazy, but Velthar looked excited. This changes everything. If humans evolved alongside predators, if they learned to communicate with them and form bonds with them, then perhaps these cubs are recognizing something in Hyunwoo. Not danger, but safety. Not prey, but pack. One of the cubs started scratching at the force barrier with its claws, not aggressively but almost playfully, like a puppy wanting attention. The sound made Ji-won cover her ears, but Hyunwoo found it oddly endearing. Instructor, one of the research assistants said nervously, what do we do? The cubs are not following the expected protocol. We cannot conduct the planned experiments if they only focus on one student. Velthar thought for a long moment. The entire class waited for his decision. Finally, he spoke. We need to understand what is happening here. This could be an important discovery. He turned to look at Hyunwoo. Would you be willing to interact with the cubs more directly, under strict safety protocols? Of course. Hyunwoo felt his heart beat faster. The cubs were dangerous, everyone said so. But looking at them now, watching how they behaved, he did not feel afraid. He felt something else. Curiosity, interest, and maybe something like recognition. Yes, Hyunwoo said. I will do it. Doyun jumped up again. This is insane. You will let a primitive human near death world predators? He will get hurt, or worse, he will prove that humans cannot be trusted. But Instructor Velthar had made his decision. We will proceed carefully. First, we will evacuate all other students to the observation deck. They can watch from there safely. Then, we will slowly lower the barriers while monitoring the cubs' behavior. If there is any sign of aggression, we will restore the barriers immediately. The classroom began to empty. Students gathered their belongings and moved toward the exit. Some looked excited to see what would happen. Others looked scared. Doyun was still complaining loudly as he left, but they all went to the observation deck. Soon, only Hyunwoo, Instructor Velthar, and the two research assistants remained in the classroom, and the three Ravix cubs, who had never stopped watching the human with their glowing golden eyes. Are you ready? Velthar asked. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Yes. Then let us see what happens when a human meets a death world predator. The observation deck was packed with students. They pressed against the windows, watching everything happening below in the classroom. Some held data pads to record what they saw. Others just stared with wide eyes. Hyunwoo stood alone in the center of the room. The three Ravix cubs were still behind the force barriers, but those barriers would come down soon. He tried to stay calm. He thought about what Instructor Velthar had told him. Move slowly. Stay relaxed. Do not show fear. Predators can smell fear. But Hyunwoo did not feel fear. He felt something else. Excitement, maybe. Or anticipation. Looking at the cubs, he saw creatures that reminded him of animals from Earth. They were different, yes. But there was something familiar in how they moved, how they watched him. Before the barriers could be lowered, the classroom door opened. A human woman walked in quickly. She was in her late 20s with short black hair and sharp eyes. She wore a researcher's uniform with several badges showing her credentials. "Wait!" she called out. "Do not proceed yet!" Instructor Velthar turned to look at her. "Researcher Sunmi, what are you doing here?" Sunmi walked directly to the instructor. "I heard about what is happening. I came as fast as I could. If you are going to allow a human to interact with Death World predators, you need someone who understands human biology and psychology present." Velthar nodded. "You are right. I apologize. I should have called you immediately. What do you think is happening here?" Sunmi looked at the cubs, then at Hyunwoo. She smiled slightly. "I think the cubs are reacting exactly as I would expect them to react to a human." "What do you mean?" one of the research assistants asked. Sunmi pulled out her data pad and projected a hologram that everyone could see. It showed a comparison chart. On one side was Carvax Prime, the cubs' home world. On the other side was Earth. The numbers made several people gasp. "Carvax Prime is a Class 9 death world," Sunmi explained. "It has dangerous predators, extreme weather, and limited resources. But Earth is Class 12. Earth is worse, much worse. Earth has more predator species, more extreme climates, more natural disasters, and more diseases than Carvax Prime." She changed the hologram to show images of Earth animals. Lions, bears, wolves, sharks, crocodiles. Humans evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill them. Not just predators, but parasites, viruses, weather, even some plants. To survive, humans had to become something unique. "And what is that?" Velthar asked. He was taking notes rapidly. "Humans developed pack-bonding instincts that go beyond their own species," Sunmi said. "Most intelligent species bond with their own kind. That is normal. But humans bond with everything. Other humans, yes, but also animals, plants, sometimes even objects. It is hardwired into human psychology. We see something and our first thought is often, can I be friends with it?" Up on the observation deck, students were listening through the speakers. Mina turned to Taiyang. "Is that true? Humans try to befriend everything?" Taiyang nodded. "I have seen it. There was a human maintenance worker last month who named all the cleaning robots. She talked to them like they were people. I thought it was strange, but she said it was normal for humans." Back in the classroom, Sunmi continued. "Humans did not just survive predators. They befriended them, made them family. There are stories of humans bonding with creatures that should kill them. On Earth, people keep snakes as pets. Snakes. Creatures that can poison you with one bite. And humans love them." She walked closer to where Hyunwoo stood. "The Ravix cubs are social predators. They live in packs. They understand hierarchy and social bonds. When they look at Hyunwoo, they do not see prey. They see a potential pack leader." "But how?" Velthar asked. "How can they recognize that?" "Biochemistry and body language," Sunmi replied. "Humans give off different pheromones than most species. We evolved among predators, so our scent profile is different. We smell like apex predators ourselves, but not threatening ones. We smell like pack, like safety, like home." Another human entered the classroom. This was Ji-hoon, the station's chief medical officer. He carried a medical kit and looked worried. I heard we are doing something potentially dangerous with one of our students. I should be here in case of injury. Velthar welcomed him. Yes, thank you. We have 2 humans present now, plus medical support. I believe we can proceed safely. The instructor turned to Hyun-woo. Are you still willing to do this? We can stop if you have changed your mind. Hyun-woo looked at the cubs. They were watching him intently, their tails moving slowly from side to side. Their golden eyes were bright with interest. He thought about what Sunmi had said, about pack bonding, about humans befriending the dangerous things in their world. I am ready, he said. Velthar nodded. We will lower the first barrier, just the first one. If the cubs remain calm, we will lower the others one at a time. If anything goes wrong, if they show any aggression, I will restore all barriers immediately. Understood? Understood, Hyun-woo replied. The instructor pressed a button on his control pad. The first force barrier flickered and disappeared. The cubs immediately moved forward to the next barrier. They pressed against it, making those same strange, purring, chirping sounds. But they did not try to break through. They waited. Good, Sunmi said quietly. They are showing patience. That is a learned behavior, usually taught by parents. They are treating this like a social interaction, not a hunting situation. Velthar lowered the second barrier. Now only one barrier remained between Hyun-woo and the cubs. The young predators were so close that Hyun-woo could see every detail of their scales, the texture of their claws, the depth of their golden eyes. One of the cubs sat down, just sat, like a dog waiting for permission to approach. The other 2 followed, sitting on either side of the first cub. They were still making sounds, but softer now, almost questioning, like they were asking permission. Sunmi touched Hyun-woo's shoulder gently. Do you know what to do? Do you understand animal body language? Hyun-woo nodded. My family had dogs and cats. I grew up with animals. I understand some things. Then trust your instincts, Sunmi told him. Human instincts are good with pack animals. Your ancestors did this for thousands of years. Hyun-woo took a deep breath. He looked at Instructor Velthar. Lower the last barrier. Up on the observation deck, students held their breath. Doyen was recording everything on his data pad, probably hoping to see something go wrong. But most students just watched with fascination. The final barrier disappeared. There was nothing between Hyun-woo and the 3 Ravix cubs. For a moment, nobody moved. The cubs sat very still, watching and waiting. Hyun-woo stood relaxed, his arms at his sides, his breathing calm. Then, slowly, the first cub stood up. It took one step forward, then another. It moved carefully, not aggressive, but cautious, like it was approaching something precious that might break. Hyun-woo did not move. He let the cub come to him. That was important, he knew. Let the animal make the choice. Do not force contact. Just wait and show that you are safe. The cub reached him and stopped right in front of him. It lifted its head, sniffing the air around Hyun-woo. Then it did something that made everyone gasp. It lowered its head and pressed its forehead against Hyun-woo's leg. Gentle pressure, not pushing, just touching, making contact. Hyun-woo slowly, very slowly, lowered his hand. He let his fingers touch the top of the cub's head. The scales were warm and smoother than he expected. The cub made a sound, a happy sound, that purring, chirping noise, but louder and more content. The other 2 cubs stood up and hurried over. They pressed against Hyun-woo from both sides. One rubbed its head against his hand. The other leaned against his leg, nearly knocking him off balance. They were not attacking. They were cuddling. Unbelievable, Ji-hoon whispered. He was recording medical data from his scanner. The cubs' stress levels are dropping. Their heart rates are slowing. They are completely relaxed. Hyun-woo knelt down slowly. Getting to their level, the cubs immediately climbed on him. One put its paws on his shoulders, another nuzzled against his chest. The third one actually licked his face with a warm, rough tongue. Hyun-woo laughed. He could not help it. The deadly predators from a death world were acting exactly like puppies. Sunmi was smiling widely. This is perfect. This is exactly what I hoped would happen. The cubs recognize Hyun-woo as Pak. They trust him completely. Instructor Velthar was recording everything. His 4 arms worked constantly, capturing data from multiple angles. This will change everything we know about cross-species interaction. If humans can bond with predators from other worlds as easily as they bond with predators from their own world, then humans might be the key to understanding dangerous species across the galaxy. Sunmi finished his thought. On the observation deck, even Do-yoon had stopped complaining. Everyone was watching in silence as Hyun-woo played with the 3 Ravix cubs. He stroked their scales. He let them climb on him. He spoke to them in soft, gentle words, and the cubs responded like they had known him their entire lives. One cub rolled onto its back, exposing its belly. This was a sign of complete trust in most predator species. Hyun-woo rubbed the cub's belly gently, and it made happy sounds that echoed through the classroom. "How long has it been?" Velthar asked. 15 minutes, Ji-hoon replied. 15 minutes. And the cubs are completely comfortable, with a species they have never met before, from a planet they have never visited. The instructor shook his head in wonder. Humans are remarkable. Hyun-woo looked up at the observation deck. He could see his classmates watching. He could see Do-yoon's shocked expression. He could see Ji-won's wonder and Taeyang's excited smile. And he realized something important. This was not about proving humans were better than other species. This was about showing that humans had something unique to offer, something valuable, the ability to bridge gaps between very different forms of life, the ability to see a dangerous predator and think friend instead of threat. One of the cubs yawned, showing all its sharp teeth. Then it curled up next to Hyun-woo and closed its eyes. The other 2 cubs did the same, pressing against him from both sides. Within moments, all 3 deadly predators were asleep, using the human as a pillow. Sunmi laughed softly. "Well, I think the experiment is a success." The video spread across the galactic network like wildfire. Within 6 hours, every major news station was showing footage of Hyun-woo with the Ravix cubs. Students had recorded everything from the observation deck, and someone had uploaded the files to the public network. Yoonji, a human communications specialist who worked in the Academy's public relations department, rushed into Instructor Velthar's office. She looked stressed. Her tablet was buzzing constantly with incoming messages. "We have a situation," she announced. "The video has been viewed 3 billion times already. Every species' homeworld is talking about this. And not all the reactions are positive." Velthar looked up from his work. He had been analyzing data from yesterday's events all night. "What kind of reactions are we seeing?" Yoonji pulled up a holographic display showing comments and news headlines from across the galaxy. "Mixed. Some species are fascinated. They want to know more about human abilities. But others are scared. They are saying humans are dangerous predators who should not be trusted around civilized species." She showed him a news clip from the Threxian home world. The news anchor was speaking urgently. "This footage proves what we have suspected all along. Humans have an unnatural ability to control predators. They are death-worlders who share more in common with mindless beasts than with civilized beings. We must reconsider their membership in the galactic community." Another clip showed a different perspective. This one was from a Verdani science channel. "The humans' interaction with the Ravix cubs suggests a unique cognitive ability. Perhaps humans possess a form of universal empathy that allows them to communicate across species barriers. This could be invaluable for diplomacy and interspecies cooperation." Velthar turned off the display. "Call an emergency council meeting." We need to address this before it becomes a larger problem. 2 hours later, the Academy's Grand Council chamber was full. Representatives from a dozen species sat in a circle. At the center stood Instructor Velthar, researcher Sunmi, and Hyunwoo himself. The young human looked nervous. He had never spoken in front of the council before. Chancellor Brektor, an elderly Quilvan who led the academy, spoke first. We are here to discuss the events of yesterday. Instructor Velthar, please explain what happened and what you believe it means. Velthar stood and activated his presentation. Images of the Cubs and Hyunwoo appeared in hologram form above the council table. What we witnessed was unprecedented. The Ravix Cubs showed no interest in any species except the human. They displayed pack-bonding behavior typically reserved for their own kind, and when allowed to interact directly, they treated the human as a trusted pack leader. He pulled up charts and graphs. I have analyzed the data extensively. The Cubs' biochemical responses, their vocalizations, their body language, all indicate complete trust and comfort. They recognize something in humans that we do not yet fully understand. Counselor Trevenik, a Threxian with dark blue scales, slammed his hand on the table. This proves humans are dangerous. They can control predators. What stops them from using this ability against us? What if they train Deathworld creatures to attack other species? Sunmi stepped forward. May I respond to that, Chancellor? Brektor nodded. Please, Researcher Sunmi, share your analysis. Sunmi looked directly at Counselor Trevenik. With respect, Counselor, you misunderstand what happened. Hyunwoo did not control the Cubs. He did not command them or force them to obey. The Cubs chose to approach him. They chose to trust him. This is not about control. It is about communication and empathy. She activated her own data display. Let me explain human evolution. Earth is a Class 12 death world. It is more dangerous than almost any other planet that supports intelligent life. Humans did not become the dominant species on Earth through strength or speed. They did it through cooperation. The hologram showed images of Earth's animals: wolves, horses, eagles, even bees. Humans learned to work with other species. They formed partnerships with predators who could hunt with them. They domesticated animals who could help with work. They even cooperated with insects to produce food. This was not control. This was friendship across species lines. Hajun, a human biologist who taught at the academy, stood to support Sunmi's argument. I have studied this extensively. Humans have a unique cognitive trait called pack bonding. We form emotional connections with almost anything. Other humans, yes, but also animals, plants, even machines. On Earth, humans keep dangerous predators as beloved pets. We cry when our animal companions die. We treat them as family. He showed data from human brain scans. When a human interacts with an animal, even a non-human animal, their brain releases oxytocin. This is the same chemical released when humans interact with their own children. Biologically, humans are programmed to form bonds across species barriers. Counselor Marin, a wise Velkorian with silver fur, raised her hand. This is fascinating, but I must ask, if humans have this ability naturally, does this not give them an unfair advantage? In diplomacy, in trade, in military applications? Sunmi shook her head. It only works with species that are capable of social bonding themselves. The Ravix Cubs responded to Hyunwoo because they are pack animals. They understand social hierarchy and trust. But this would not work with a non-social species, and it certainly would not work against another intelligent species. You cannot pack bond with someone who does not want to bond with you. Chancellor Brektor looked at Hyunwoo. Young human, you have been quiet. Tell us, in your own words, what happened yesterday. What did you feel when you were with the Cubs? Hyunwoo stood up. His voice was nervous at first, but grew stronger as he spoke. I felt like I was meeting someone new. Not something, someone. The Cubs were not just animals to me. They were individuals with their own personalities. One was bold and came to me first. One was shy and waited. One was playful and kept trying to lick my face. He looked around at the council members. I did not try to control them. I just tried to understand them, to show them I was not dangerous, to let them know they were safe with me. That is what my ancestors did thousands of years ago when they first met wolves. They said, "You can trust me. We can be friends." And it worked. There was silence in the chamber. Then Counselor Marin spoke again. "I think I understand now. Humans do not see other species as tools or threats. They see potential friends, potential family. Is that correct?" Hyunwoo nodded. "Yes, that is correct." Counselor Trevennik was not convinced. "But what about the danger? These are Death World predators. What if one of the cubs had attacked? What if this human ability fails?" Ji-hoon, the medical officer, stood to answer. "I monitored everything carefully. The cubs never showed aggression, not once. Their stress levels decreased when near Hyunwoo. If there had been any danger, I would have stopped the interaction immediately." He pulled up medical data. "In fact, I noticed something interesting. Hyunwoo's stress levels were also low. Most species would show high stress when near apex predators, but humans do not. They are calm. This is because humans evolved among predators. They are not afraid of dangerous creatures the way we are." Velthar added more information. "I have been researching human history since yesterday. Did you know that humans on Earth shared their planet with creatures called bears? These were massive predators, 3 times the size of a human, with strength enough to break bones with one strike. And some humans kept these bears as companions. They trained them, worked with them, even loved them." Several council members made sounds of disbelief. The idea was almost incomprehensible to them. Yoonji, who had been waiting by the door, stepped forward. "Chancellor, if I may add something. The galactic response to this video is not entirely negative. Many species are expressing interest in learning from humans. They want to understand this ability. Some are even requesting human consultants for their own xenobiology programs." She showed messages from various planets. "The Verdani Science Council wants to hire human researchers. The Quilvan Diplomatic Corps wants humans to help with first contact situations. Even some military organizations are interested in how humans might help calm aggressive species during conflicts." Brektor looked thoughtful. He was old and had seen many changes in the galaxy during his long life. "It seems to me that humans have a gift, a unique ability that no other species possesses to the same degree. The question is not whether this ability is dangerous. The question is how we can use this ability to benefit everyone." He stood up, and everyone in the chamber fell silent. "I propose we create a new department at the Academy. A department focused on cross-species social dynamics, led by human researchers. We will study this pack bonding ability. We will learn how it works and how it can be applied, and we will share this knowledge with the entire galactic community." Counselor Marin nodded in agreement. "I support this proposal. Humans should not be feared for being different. They should be valued for what they bring to our community." One by one, the other council members agreed. Even Counselor Trevennik, though he looked unhappy, eventually nodded his acceptance. The vote was unanimous. Chancellor Brektor smiled at Hyunwoo. "Young human, you came to this academy as a student, but you have taught us something valuable. You have shown us that being different is not being dangerous. It is being special. Will you help us build this new department?" Hyunwoo felt overwhelmed. Yesterday he had just been a quiet student trying to fit in. Today he was part of something bigger. "Yes, Chancellor, I will help." As the council meeting ended, students and faculty gathered around Hyunwoo. They wanted to ask questions, to understand more about humans and their abilities. Even Doyoon approached, though he looked embarrassed. "I was wrong about you," Doyoon said quietly. "I thought humans were primitive. But maybe being primitive means remembering things that civilized species have forgotten, like how to make friends with the wild things in the universe. Hyunwoo smiled. Thank you for saying that. Far away in their holding area, the three Ravix cubs were sleeping peacefully. They had eaten well and were content, but they would remember the human who had treated them with kindness. They would remember his scent, his voice, his gentle touch. And when they were grown and returned to their home world, they would carry that memory with them. The galaxy was changing. And it was changing because one human had shown that fear could be replaced with friendship, that danger could be met with understanding, and that the wildest creatures could become family if only someone was brave enough to try. 3 months had passed since the day the Ravix cubs chose Hyunwoo. The academy looked different now. A new building stood near the science complex, with a sign that read, Department of Cross-Species Social Dynamics. Inside, humans and aliens worked together, studying the mysteries of pack bonding and interspecies communication. Hyunwoo walked through the department's main hall. He was no longer just a student. He was now a junior researcher, working directly with instructor Velthar and researcher Sunmi. His life had changed in ways he never imagined possible. Seojun, another human student who had joined the department, walked beside him. Seojun was tall and friendly, with a warm smile that put everyone at ease. He carried a data pad full of notes from their morning research session. "Did you see the latest data?" Seojun asked excitedly. "We tested the pack bonding response with 12 different species. 8 of them showed positive reactions to human presence. 8! That is a 67% success rate." Hyunwoo nodded. "But we must be careful how we present this information. Some species still think humans are trying to manipulate them. We need to show that pack bonding is about mutual trust, not control." They entered a large research lab where several experiments were taking place. In one corner, a human researcher named Sora was sitting with a small creature from the planet Vextor. The creature looked like a furry blue ball with 6 legs and large eyes. It had a reputation for being extremely shy and difficult to study, but with Sora, the creature was calm. It sat in her lap making soft humming sounds. Sora gently stroked its fur and spoke to it in a quiet voice. The creature's stress levels, displayed on a nearby monitor, were the lowest ever recorded for its species. "Remarkable," Velthar said, watching from the observation window. He had become the co-director of the new department. 3 months ago, trying to study a Vextorian stress mouse would have required sedation. Now, with a human present, it is completely relaxed. Sunmi stood next to him, taking notes. "We are seeing similar results with dozens of species. Humans have a calming effect on social animals. The biochemical markers are consistent. Human pheromones trigger trust responses in species that evolved pack behaviors." In another part of the lab, Hajun was working with 2 Quilvan students. They were studying animal communication patterns, comparing how different species express emotions. One of the Quilvan students, Jiwon, was now Hyunwoo's research partner. She had overcome her initial fear and had become fascinated by human abilities. "Hyunwoo," she called out, "can you help us with this? We are trying to understand how humans recognize emotional states in animals they have never seen before." Hyunwoo walked over. On the screen was a video of a creature from a distant world. It looked like a cross between an octopus and a bird, with feathers and tentacles. The creature was moving in strange patterns. "What do you think it is feeling?" Jiwon asked. Hyunwoo watched the video carefully. He paid attention to how the creature moved, the position of its feathers, the way its tentacles curled and uncurled. After a moment, he said, "It is scared. See how it makes itself smaller? How it keeps looking around? It is afraid of something." Jiwon checked the data. "Correct. The creature was being shown images of predators during this recording. How did you know?" Hyunwoo shrugged. "I do not know exactly. I just looked at it and understood. Maybe humans are good at reading body language because we had to be. On Earth, Knowing if an animal was scared or angry could mean the difference between life and death. Taiyang entered the lab carrying refreshments. He had also joined the department, working as a research assistant. His mixed heritage gave him a unique perspective, understanding both human and alien viewpoints. "News from the Council," Taiyang announced. "They approved our proposal. We will be sending human researchers to 6 different planets to help with their xenobiology programs." Everyone in the lab cheered. This was a huge step forward. Just months ago, many species had been afraid of humans. Now they were requesting human help. But the biggest news came later that afternoon. Chancellor Brektor himself visited the department with a special announcement. The entire staff gathered in the conference room. "I have received communication from the Carvax Prime Conservation Authority," the Chancellor said. "They are impressed with the work being done here, and they have made a request." He paused for effect. Everyone waited eagerly. "The 3 Ravix cubs are ready to return home. They are now 4 months old and must rejoin their species for proper socialization. However, the Conservation Authority has asked if Hyunwoo would be willing to accompany the cubs back to Carvax Prime. They want him to help establish the first human Ravix communication program." Hyunwoo felt his heart race. Return to Carvax Prime, a Class 9 death world filled with dangerous predators? It was exciting and terrifying at the same time. "Will he be safe?" Jahoon asked. The medical officer had become very protective of the human researchers. "The authority has guaranteed his safety," Brektor replied. "He will be accompanied by a full research team and security detail, but more importantly, they believe the Ravix themselves will protect him. Adult Ravix are intelligent creatures. If their cubs trust humans, the adults will learn to trust them too." Hyunwoo thought about the 3 cubs he had spent so much time with over the past months. He had watched them grow. He had played with them, fed them, even helped train them. They were not just research subjects to him. They were friends. "I will go," he said. The preparation took 2 weeks. During that time, Hyunwoo spent every day with the cubs, making sure their bond remained strong. The cubs had grown much larger now. They were the size of Earth's wolves, with scales that had darkened to a deep black color. But they were still gentle with Hyunwoo, still made those same purring, chirping sounds when he was near. On the day of departure, many people came to see them off. Students and faculty gathered at the landing bay where the transport ship waited. Doyun was there too. He had changed significantly over the past months. He no longer mocked humans. Instead, he had become one of the department's strongest supporters. "Bring back good data," Doyun said, shaking Hyunwoo's hand. "Show the galaxy what humans can do." Mina, the Velkorian student, gave Hyunwoo a small gift. It was a communication device. "So you can send us messages from Carvax Prime. I want to hear everything about your adventure." Ji-won hugged him, which was unusual for Quilvan culture. "Be safe, my friend. Come back and teach us more about your human magic." The journey to Carvax Prime took 5 days. During that time, Hyunwoo stayed with the cubs in their special habitat on the ship. He continued their training, preparing them for their return to the wild, but he also learned from them. He learned their language of sounds and movements. He learned what made them happy, what scared them, what excited them. When the ship entered orbit around Carvax Prime, Hyunwoo looked down at the planet. It was beautiful and dangerous. Dark forests covered most of the continents. Massive storm systems swirled through the atmosphere. This was a world where only the strong survived. The landing site was a research station on the edge of a vast wilderness preserve. Dozens of scientists waited to greet them. Most were native Carvaxians, a species that had evolved on this deadly world. They were tough, practical people who respected strength. The lead scientist, a woman named Rexa, approached Hyunwoo. She was tall and muscular, with scars on her arms from years of field work. "So you are the human who befriended our cubs. I admit, I did not believe the reports until I saw the videos. You are either very brave or very foolish. Hyun-woo smiled. Maybe both. Rexa laughed. I like you already. Come, let us release your cubs and see what happens. The release site was a large enclosure that opened into the wild. Inside the enclosure, an adult female Ravix waited. She was the cubs' mother, separated from them when they were taken for research. She was massive, 3 times the size of her cubs, with scars that showed she was a survivor. When the cubs saw their mother, they became excited. They made loud calls and ran toward her. The mother responded with her own calls, deep and powerful. For a moment, Hyun-woo felt sad. The cubs were going home. He would miss them. But then something unexpected happened. The cubs stopped halfway to their mother. They turned back to look at Hyun-woo. They called to him, that same sound they had made the first day they met. Come with us, the sound seemed to say. You are Pack. Hyun-woo looked at Rexa. May I enter the enclosure? Rexa hesitated. The mother might see you as a threat. Or she might see me as family, Hyun-woo replied. Rexa considered this. Finally, she nodded. Your choice, but I will have tranquilizer weapons ready. Hyun-woo entered the enclosure slowly. The cubs immediately ran to him, greeting him with their affectionate nuzzling and purring sounds. Then they led him toward their mother, walking between him and her, making introductions in their own way. The mother Ravix stared at Hyun-woo with intelligent golden eyes. She was evaluating him, deciding if he was safe. Hyun-woo stood still, showing no fear, no aggression. Just calm presence. The cubs rubbed against their mother, then against Hyun-woo, then back to their mother, sharing sense, building connections. After what felt like forever, the mother Ravix stepped forward. She lowered her massive head and sniffed Hyun-woo carefully. Then she did something that made every watching scientist gasp. She gently touched her forehead to Hyun-woo's chest, the same gesture her cubs had made months ago. Acceptance. Trust. Welcome to the pack. The footage of that moment spread across the galaxy even faster than the first video. It showed a human, small and fragile compared to the massive predator, being accepted into a family of Death World creatures. It showed that understanding and respect could bridge any gap, cross any boundary. 6 months later, the Department of Cross-Species Social Dynamics had expanded to 5 buildings. Human researchers were working on 20 different planets. First contact teams now included humans specifically for their pack bonding abilities. And 3 new human students had just arrived at the academy: Bowman, who wanted to work with aquatic species, Sora, who was interested in avian creatures, and Jaemin, who dreamed of helping establish communication with non-social species. Hyun-woo had returned from Carvax Prime with volumes of data and experience. He now taught classes on interspecies communication. His classroom was always full, with students from every corner of the galaxy wanting to learn from the human who had befriended Death World predators. On this particular day, Hyun-woo stood before a lecture hall of 200 students. The hall was quiet as they waited for him to speak. He looked out at all the different species, all the different worlds represented in this room. When I first came to this academy, he began, I was seen as primitive, as someone from a backward world who had nothing to offer. Many of you thought humans were dangerous or foolish, and maybe we are both those things sometimes. Some students laughed. Hyun-woo smiled and continued. But humans are also something else. We are connectors. We look at the universe and see not enemies or resources, but potential friends, potential family. This is not weakness. This is not naivety. This is survival strategy that worked on the most dangerous planet in our region of space. He pulled up an image of Earth. My ancestors learned that making friends was better than making weapons. They learned that understanding predators was safer than fighting them. They learned that the strongest pack is the one that includes the most diverse members. Another image appeared showing Hyun-woo with the Ravix cubs. Every species in this galaxy has something unique to offer. Quilvan have incredible analytical minds. Threxian have amazing engineering skills. Velcorian have natural diplomatic abilities. And humans? We have the ability to look at something completely different from ourselves and say, "You belong with us." He looked directly at his students. This is what I want to teach you, not how to control other species, not how to manipulate or dominate, but how to connect, how to understand, how to build bridges where others see only walls. The lecture hall erupted in applause. Students from every species clapped and cheered. Even the few skeptics who had come to challenge human methods found themselves moved by Hyunwoo's words. After class, as students filed out, Doyen approached Hyunwoo. The Threxian carried a small cage with a creature inside. It was a baby Threxian spike lizard, a notoriously bad-tempered species. "I have been trying to study these for my thesis," Doyen said, "but they are too aggressive. I cannot get close enough to observe them properly. Would you help me?" Hyunwoo looked at the spike lizard. It was hissing and snapping at the bars of its cage. To most species, it was a nuisance, possibly dangerous despite its small size. But Hyunwoo saw something else. He saw a scared baby, probably taken from its mother too young, probably handled roughly by researchers who feared it. "Yes," Hyunwoo said, "I will help you. But first, we need to understand that this creature is not aggressive. It is afraid, and fear makes anyone dangerous." As they walked toward the research lab together, Hyunwoo felt content. This was his purpose. Not to change the galaxy through force or superior technology, but to change it through understanding, one connection at a time. Far away, on Carvax Prime, 3 adult Ravix ran through the dark forests. They were strong and wild, perfect predators, but they remembered the human who had shown them kindness. They remembered his scent, his voice, his gentle touch, and sometimes when they howled to the moons of their world, they made a sound that was part howl and part that strange purring chirp, a sound that meant family, a sound that meant home. The age of humans in the galactic community had truly begun, not as conquerors or traitors or warriors, but as friends, as family, as the ones who could look at the wild, dangerous, beautiful universe and say with complete sincerity, "You are not my enemy. You are my pack, and together we belong."